Good in the hood.
Good and good. You ready, Justin?
I am ready, yeah.
He's been ready since 10:30.
Been ready? No, he's been ready since like 10.
It's very unprofessional of us.
It is. What is going on, everybody? Thank you for tuning in to the Last Flight Show. I'm your host, Jake Klein. Joining me is Matt Hicks, my co-host and owner of Last Flight Calls. So today we have a very cool guest on. I'm sure a lot of you guys have seen his work on Instagram, but we're going to go into more of that. We're going to go over what's going on in the shop, which will be very quick. Really not a whole lot going on outside of the fresh calls.
Just full production mode, really. I mean, just trying to stock up.
Yep.
The CNC machine's been running non-stop every day. So,
yep.
Just trying to get stocked up, because when it comes time to sell, we can't make enough, in that time frame.
Yeah, for sure.
Because becomes a time where the machine's actually shut off and we just ship because it's just busy.
Right.
So, we're trying to get ahead of the curve.
Yep.
And this year we are more prepared than ever, which is good. So, yeah.
Yep. Typical shop stuff.
That's about it. Just grinding, man. Just typical, like it's a job. You know what I mean?
Like it's a job. Then when we're going to go over the verse of the week here in just a second. We're probably going to skip the goat movement. Our duck is pretty much not moved. So we
local,
think he's pretty much happy and content where he's at. So we will keep an eye on that, and then we will report back next week and see if he has moved.
Yeah.
So before we get into the verse of the week, and then we get into break,
delaying me.
The guest this week is Justin Adamski. He is the owner of Color Waterfowl. Like I said earlier in this intro, that you've probably seen a lot of his cool graphics that he does on Instagram, as well as his waterfowl photography. And then he's got a podcast too, so we're going to cover all of that once we get back from break here. But before we do that, Matthew, you want to take us with the verse of the week?
Go through the verse of the week. So releasing this Monday here, John 16:33, which reads, "I have told you all that is." I already messed it up. "I have told you all this so that you may have peace in me. Here on earth you will have many trials and sorrows, but take heart because I have overcome the world." So just like every week, we kind of go through, break it down into 3 different parts, kind of dissect it a bit and kind of get down into what that really even means. So kind of the first part of the verse here, which reads, "I have told you these things so that in me you may have peace," or peace in me. Basically, we often seek the world, or think like the world is peace, but it offers, that's shallow, temporary, just kind of, you know what I mean? Dependent on the circumstance you're in, situation, versus the peace God can offer you is everlasting. It's real peace. It's genuine. It's, there's no confusion. It's not here nor there. It's just always there.
Yeah.
And kind of, one thing you can kind of ask yourself is, are you finding peace in your own strength, or are you seeking God's, you trust in God.
Right.
And that kind of, it's easy just to try to do it your own way, but at the end of the day, how's that working for you?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
So I've had to learn that, the hard way a few times. So, then the second part, "In this world you will have troubles," or trials or sorrows. Basically, God will never sugarcoat anything for you to pad your feelings, or, it's just kind of the blunt truth, which is, honestly love in a way, you know what I mean? To be just completely honest, of a situation versus sugarcoating it and beating around the bush. That's not, that's not love. That's just, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That, might get you through a temporary time, but that's also not everlasting either. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So, have faith in Him and use Him as your anchor, and, you know what I mean? So then the third part, "But take heart, if I have overcome the world," kind of just puts it into perspective that He's already been here, done that. You know what I mean? What do we have to, like, why are we saying no?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
he's been here, done that. He's overcome the world, you know, like the sin, everything else. You know, he died for us. Like,
Yeah.
why are we, you know what I mean? Like,
Right.
why are we being idiots? You know,
Yeah.
just get in line, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Hand the keys over, get in the passenger seat, and trust and have faith in what he's doing for you, and, you know, and get out of your own way, you know?
Yeah.
Hand over the keys, get in the passenger seat, and enjoy the ride, you know, because he'll take you somewhere good.
Yeah.
So,
And I can assure you it is a better ride with him than not.
yeah, for
right.
sure. Definitely.
Know what I mean?
Yao Ming, buddy.
All right. So, Justin is on right now. He's hanging out right here, patiently waiting his turn here. But we're going to take a quick break, and once we come back, then we'll introduce Justin, or have him introduce himself. He's got some pretty cool things going on. He does some stuff with Delta Waterfowl. And then obviously he's a waterfowl photographer, so we're going to get into that. And then at the end there, we're going to talk more about full color waterfowl, how it began, where it started, and the graphics. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Welcome to the Last Flight Show, brought to you by Last Flight Calls and Gear. This episode starts now.
And we're back.
I told you he was going to do that. Like, gives it 5 seconds and we're back.
All right, let's do it real.
Yeah, let's do it. What's up, Justin? How you doing, buddy?
Not too bad. How are you guys?
Oh, it's kind of hot in here, actually.
We need some AC in the shop.
We do.
So the shop's been averaging like 85 degrees.
Yeah, and
Which outside it's been, 90 to 94
yeah.
this week. We're in a heat wave, I think you guys are too.
Yeah, we finally just broke from it. We were 3 or 4 days of the real feel was 105.
Yeah.
So
Nope.
Exactly.
that was some splendid weather with my little window unit in the house trying to keep up. So
running full speed.
Isn't your
full tilt. It got it down to 80 degrees in the house because I have chickens in one of my spare bedrooms. That's a story for another time.
Oh
but,
my goodness.
you have chickens in your spare bedroom?
Yep, they're
That's
actually in a little baby playpen. I'm raising them, and they're going to eventually go outside with the ducks in my coop. But I got to keep introducing them until they stop having little UFC fights in the process of introduction.
Do what you got to do.
Right. Yeah. That's funny. So Justin, tell us a little bit about yourself, and then once you do that, I mean, obviously talk about full color waterfowl for a little bit, but then I definitely want to hit on that Delta thing you've got going on. So just kind of let us know about you.
Sure. So Justin Adamski from Central Wisconsin. So I live about 20 minutes from Wausau. People know where that location is. I primarily was a deer hunter growing up. Wisconsin and deer hunting kind of go hand in hand. I got into duck hunting actually a little bit later in life. I want to say I picked it up in my late 20s. I'm 42 now, so been doing it for a while, but it hasn't encompassed me until I got to the point of getting into the photography aspect and getting more involved in the outdoors and wanting to take and build a brand and go into like more advocacy for youth and that kind of thing. Right, so yeah. I kind of made the switch to where I slowly stopped deer hunting during rut and got more into hunting ducks during the rut because they just slowly took me over. I don't know what it is about birds in general, but I have parrots and parakeets. I have ducks in my backyard. I photograph them. I draw.
Chickens in your spare bedroom.
Chickens in my spare bedroom. Yeah, I mean, they're pretty much all over the house. Some are alive, some are dead. So when I was carrying the little baby ducklings around the house, they kind of looked at the mounts a little weird, but they're not destined for the wall. They're destined to just lay some eggs in my backyard. So yeah. But for the most part, it's been kind of a humbling / very neat experience going from growing up in a generation of hunters around here, just deer hunting with family and having that camaraderie in the deer woods, and then just slowly transitioning, kind of finding my own way in the marsh and figuring it out as I go, and just building off of what I observe from other people and learning how to call and going into that. And now that I fully understand it to my ability, I like sharing that with younger kids. So that's kind of my passion for waterfowl.
And is that kind of how you started your journey, or the deal that you've got going on with Delta right now?
Yeah. It started with me and my wife. Me and my wife both started Full Color Waterfowl. Kind of. My wife's a non-hunter. It's
Okay.
not that she has anything against hunting. She just doesn't have it in her heart to pull the trigger, which I can respect.
Absolutely.
However, she likes everything that goes in a crock pot and a roaster and on a grill.
Exactly.
So that's where those two parts collide, and she's perfectly okay with the wall art and everything else that goes along with it.
Yeah.
So, the helping out with Delta kind of came after building my little brand and getting into. I built my social media brand, my Full Color Waterfowl brand, more so to meet new people that I would have never met before.
Okay.
I didn't build it so much for, thinking I'm the next person that's going to be the latest and greatest shirt salesman or selling hats and this kind of stuff. It was really never geared toward that. The thing that I liked about our brand is me and my wife draw everything. We create everything in-house. It's 100% us doing it all.
Right.
So I'm not paying another person to design for me. We're coming up with designs and we're putting them on shirts. If people like them, great. If they don't, that's on you.
Right.
That kind of thing was kind of our mentality going into it, as just like a secondary thing to kind of build our hobby into a multifaceted thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got introduced more into Delta with going to banquets, and not so much just being a banquet person, but starting to be a committee member and getting more involved with that. And then going into now this next year here, I'll be the chairman of our Delta Waterfowl chapter around home here. So it's kind of come full circle into that, to where now I do a lot of the volunteering. I go to the regional meetings, the state meetings, and all that stuff to just kind of understand the entire complexity that is waterfowl.
Right. I think it's really interesting and pretty neat, really, that you started Full Color Waterfowl differently than what most people would start something like that. So normally, in most situations, people start something like that because they do want to be the latest and greatest, or they saw somebody else do it and they want to do it.
Or the clout or the money.
Yes, something in that nature, but you did it to meet new people, and really I think it's interesting because I think a lot of the people that you'll talk to that did start their company differently than that, or started it because of either money or fame or just people just knowing them, will tell you that the best thing about that whole thing was not anything other than meeting new people. Like that's what the best part of if you talk to 95% of people like that,
Right.
But to see that you've created Full Color Waterfowl and you and your wife have done that basically to do what everybody else eventually remembers or appreciates the most is unique, and it's really pretty cool.
Yeah, it's opened up doors to where I wanted to meet people and see different ways people hunt ducks. So, you reach out to different people on Instagram or whatever it may be. And, now I talk to people that hunt salt flats in Utah or skinny water in Montana or out in California, and see the different ways that they hunt, and what, sometimes what we complain about here is way less than what people have to deal with in Arkansas. And it just opens your eyes to the whole community as a whole, which is kind of cool.
Right.
Well, it's so cool because that's what's cool about the hunting community, I guess, is when you get on the social media and stuff, like you can't help but meet new friends because, you're getting so niche into like what y'all like.
Right.
Y'all like the same things. Like it's so hard not to be friends.
Right.
But at the same time, it is in a way.
Well,
but it's so hard not to just enjoy. You know what I mean? The similar things that you guys share. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and just we've talked about this at earlier shows, but it's just from a whitetail hunter standpoint, their view on the industry is so much different than those of the waterfowlers because especially when you're talking about collaborations and you're talking about meeting new people and getting to hunt with different people. When you think about a deer hunt, you're hanging out with these people. Yeah, you're hanging out with these people at camp at night.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
To where in a duck hunt or a goose hunt, you're like, hey, let's go.
It's true, yeah.
Let's go hunt this field.
You're with them all day.
You're with them all day.
Yeah.
And so the collaboration in that is so much stronger. And then it's just like the mentality and the personality of most waterfowl hunters, even companies versus companies. You know, we can go to a show and we can be, I mean, just like Indy, we can be set up right next to JT Calls. You know, and we're having a good time with everybody.
Well, and a lot of that is because the passion is what is why you're doing it and why you're there. Not when it becomes all about the money, that's when it gets cloudy, and I'm kind of going down a different road here, but that's when it gets cloudy, and that's when people start not getting along, start hating each other. But if you all just realize and get back to like your roots and like, why'd you were a duck hunter before this company, right? Most of the time,
right?
You know what I mean? If you get back to your roots and your passion, like,
remember those values.
Yes.
Yeah,
like
keep your values.
You know, like it's a lot less hostile.
Yes.
Industry and environment, but anyways, we don't have to keep going on that.
And a lot of like when you're a normal person going to a trade show, you can tell the people that are truly passionate about their business and truly passionate, not just to sell you
100%.
something, but they're there to make a connection with you. And I've talked to you online. I've done this. I've done that. And they want to build that relationship with you, not so much just give me your credit card and I can slide it and we can be on our way.
Yeah. Yes. And we did that quite a bit actually at Indy. Like we had one customer, I'm not going to say his name, but we had one customer who came to the booth like 3 times. I mean, you know what? Just to hang out and talk. Yeah. Which that whole situation was a whole party anyway that day. So, I mean, we had like three of us were all together, and there was JT Calls, and then there was us, and then Schilling Falco was right next to us, and all of us had turtle boxes. Yeah. And the turtle boxes were linked, and so it was just like Indy. Indy. They put all the waterfowlers collars in the back corner.
Yeah, one corner. They put up these curtains that go from ceiling to floor.
Yeah,
to block the sound. You're like in your own zone. So it's a whole different environment.
So it was as soon as you walked through that curtain to the main show, it was like I'm ready to take a nap.
It's like we just entered a different show. But
it's just it's incredible, and you really couldn't get that. I mean, anywhere other than a waterfowl community. So,
which, speaking of shows, I met Justin at the Oshkosh show a few years back.
Oh, okay.
So he had a booth last year up there. That was your first year with the booth, right?
Yeah, that was my first year ever doing a booth at all. So it was actually kind of a stressful experience. So I see what you guys go through, bouncing around to a whole bunch of them. But it was really fun too.
It is. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of stress, but it's a lot of fun. You know, just being around everybody that similar values. You know, right? Share the similar things. Yeah. So.
As soon as all the technology and power worked for like processing payments and stuff, I'm like, okay, it's gonna be a good day.
I know it's always stressful, like making sure the first transaction goes through, because from there it's like I'm good, but if that don't go through, it's like oh no, then you're scrambling. Right. But will you be back this year?
Yeah, I have a booth this year as well too that I'll be doing.
Kind of the same spot, or
exact same spot.
Okay,
yep.
We'll be so we'll be to your left at the end of the aisle this year. That same building.
Oh, okay,
so
cool.
We got moved into there this year. Thank goodness, because the AC's a little nicer.
So we're talking about.
Yeah, you guys were cooking a little bit out there last year.
Yeah,
we're talking about a party this year. Sounds like.
Yeah. Oh goodness.
All right, Justin. So let's talk about your journey into waterfowl photography. You know, what made you decide, like, hey, I'm going to pick up a camera?
So my mom is very artistic. Mm-hmm. So I've always kind of had a little bit of an artistic side to me. Got a little bit into, so I'm 42. Cameras back when I was a little kid were a little bit different. You still had the point and shoot little Polaroids, and you were still getting out of the rolls like film and that kind of thing. Not to date myself at all, but once you got into being able to have like little point and shoot cameras and stuff, didn't fully understand photography, but I respected it and liked doing it to share what I was doing at the current time in my life. But I would say I got more involved with it when I met my wife, because she was introduced to photography when she got here. My wife's from Ukraine, and she got adopted over here.
Okay.
And the first thing her father did, because there's a little bit of a language barrier until you understand English, is he gave her a camera, so she had a way to kind of show people the world that she was seeing through her lens.
Okay.
And once we started dating and went out with her more and went out and did a little bit more of the photography stuff, then we kind of got the itch to get into the mirrorless camera. Not mirrorless, but it was, I think our first camera that we bought together was a Canon 90D.
Okay.
And had limitations with the camera that I wanted to do and wanted to get out a little farther because you can never have a long enough lens to get where you want to be.
Yep.
And so then that sent me down the rabbit hole of asking Mr. Matt what he would recommend for mirrorless and all this kind of stuff. And
Sony gang.
Yeah, he's a Sony guy. Sony guy.
So then I ended up buying the Sony A7R III and then got the 200 to 600, and that put me down the rabbit hole of getting out my decoys that I would normally use during the fall and bringing those out with me in the mornings and sitting in different spots at the wildlife areas and keep trying to get closer and closer and get those shots that I see other people doing. And I like, when I hunt, I like decoying birds. I'm the furthest from a sky blaster. So I took that perspective into photography and wanted to try to get birds in close, feet down to the water, sitting on the water and just kind of showing people what's out there from different perspectives in my view. So kind of how it started, and then it evolved into me having to learn Lightroom, and I'm not very tech savvy other than a few things. So I was just like, okay, this will be fun.
Yeah.
And went down that rabbit hole, and now I just love every aspect of it. And it's cool that now that I've been doing it for a while, you look back at stuff you edited a year and a half, 2 years ago, and you're like, wow, that was terrible.
Yeah.
And you just grow along the way of doing it.
It's crazy how your editing style kind of evolves or changes.
Yeah.
You know, like even from like 3 months, you know.
Yeah, and we've talked about this on previous podcasts. Like it just,
I don't know why.
you find, well, I think it's because you always have that inspiration, right? Like
that instinct to do more, do different.
Yeah, and you have that inspiration to get you started, and you're like, wow, I really want to take pictures like that. You know what I mean? And then you start doing it, and you're like, you find your own little niche, like you find your own little way of doing things, and then it just kind of evolves from there, I guess. But I don't know.
Well, I mean that's true because you can look at someone's photo and be like, so and so took that.
Yeah.
Without even knowing.
Yeah, I can look at a Matt Hicks picture and say Matt Hicks took that picture. Even your style has changed. Yeah. Even from 2 years ago, year and a half ago to today, it's changed a lot. Yeah. So I just think it's just people's way of trying to be different. You know what I mean? And just figuring out what works for them and what they enjoy doing. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
So
I've done a lot with just kind of trying to push myself to. You look at a little bit older picture and you're like, why was I not more?
Oh yeah.
Looking at where the light source was coming from and having it more backlit on this side and doing more this side. So you kind of trying to understand light fully, and not only to get the right clarity of the picture and stuff, but also, okay, if you're sitting in the marsh and the ducks are coming into the wind, but the sun is to your left, that part of the picture brightening up and kind of dimming it out in the background and little things like that just kind of jump out to me more now that I've done it.
Yeah. You learn so much, and then you look back on old pictures and you think the same thing you just said, Justin. It's just like, why didn't I do this? Well, because at that time, he didn't know to do that. You know what I mean? That's just like, so everything changes.
Don't know what you don't know.
So, what was your experience like going from a crop sensor DSLR and the 90D to a full frame R3 sensor, especially with the Sony menu? The Sony menu is insane compared to Canon's.
Humbling right off the bat, because I felt like I had a foreign object in my hand, which I kind of did.
You did.
When you get used to a certain camera body being a certain way in your hand, and then you just reinvent the wheel and switch over to something that is smaller, little bit relatively, I guess, a little heavier. But just understanding and going through all the settings and all the different stuff that the other one didn't have. Like now you have all this at your disposal, but if you physically don't know how to use it, it's no better than the other one because, well, you don't know what you're doing. So just building off of that and learning from other photographers, I reached out to a few people and just asked, like, I'm not asking for all your settings, but just like, get me started with this lens.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
getting frustrated with
Yeah.
flying subjects and stuff, and so it got me where I needed to be, and then obviously then you just figuring out your settings and your lights and all that kind of stuff along the way. And it right off the bat, I thought I made a really bad financial decision buying all that stuff, and just because you get, it's humbling real quick if you don't fully understand it, but you got to just teach yourself.
Mm-hmm. Well, the good thing is Sony cameras are like Toyota vehicles, right? They hold their value for so long,
God.
You get 350,000 miles on Tacoma. You get 350,000 shutter glare.
Made in the same country, aren't they? Probably.
I don't know. Probably. I don't
Japan?
know. Maybe. I don't know.
I believe so, yeah.
Oh man. I will say this though about Sony. Sony, if I had to choose a camera that's best to do everything, I would pick up a Sony again. I switched over to everything. Like I made my way around every brand, every camera. I went from Sony from Nikon to Sony to Canon, then back to Nikon, then back to Canon. And
You even had an Olympus or something.
I had to know how to Lumix.
A Lumix?
Yes, because at that time I was getting more into.
Like, what is that?
I was getting more into video production stuff, and then so I picked up I had a Panasonic Lumix G9 that I really, really liked. The video capabilities were fantastic. However, the sensor size is what really, even though it's got a 20 megapixel sensor, it also has a very small sensor compared to, let's say, your micro four, or the micro four thirds is a lot smaller than your crop sensor or your full frame. So then I went to Canon. It was crazy going from the Lumix mirrorless to back to Canon, because I went to the Canon 7D Mark II, and then that was when kind of I got more into the wildlife things, and now I shoot a Nikon Z5 back to full frame Nikon, and got everything set up. And ironically, our show is shot on a Sony camera, but
FX30. Yep.
Nice.
So when did the graphic design stuff start coming into play? Or was it always a thing?
Yeah, that kind of came in line with the same time. Well, when we started getting into, I created the Full Color Waterfowl brand because me and my wife wanted to do a social media page, and came up with Full Color Waterfowl, and sitting on the couch one night, and we were trying to figure out our first flagship graphic that we wanted to kind of do. And when I think of duck hunting, I think of Louisiana marshes and people wearing green hip boots to the grocery store. So the first thing I wanted to do was have a blue-winged teal wearing hip boots. So that was our first graphic that we ever did, and that was Puddle Ducker. And that was kind of a collaboration between me and my wife's, sitting on the couch and brainstorming a little bit to get to the point where we had that graphic. Yeah. And I want to say that was probably, it's probably been 3 or 4 years ago since we've started the brand, and kind of ran with that. Did stuff very simplistic. We just did stickers. That's how we started. We just put our graphics online for people to see, did stickers, evolved into shirts and that kind of stuff, and just kind of ran with it to see what people liked, what people didn't. And then we got into, starting to do graphics for other businesses, small groups, big groups, YouTube channel guys. Yep.
Did one for you as well. I got it right here. So he actually made the duck that's on the illusion, if you can see that. But that duck that's on there, Justin and his wife helped me with that project.
Very cool. I didn't even know that.
No, you didn't.
No,
I didn't even think about it until today. Until like right now, I was just the texted Zach, get me an illusion. Because I was like, oh yeah.
So what inspired the name? Like, I know that there's some companies that have, like, there's a reason that their company is named this. Is there anything that it kind of inspired the name of the company?
Yeah, mainly just my big thing for people in general in the outdoors, in the waterfowl world, is full color, meaning full plumage birds. Because full plumage birds are, when they're at their peak, for a photographer, you want to get springtime photos. So they're all like, we don't see pintails ever here in the hunting season that are anywhere close to having full plumage. So I go out to the wildlife areas in the springtime just because that's when I get to see all the beautiful. Beautiful birds, the pintails, the widgeons, which widgeon's my favorite bird, but they don't hang out here much at all. So in the springtime, they come through for about a week and a half. They're here for a little bit, and then they proceed to where their nesting grounds are. So kind of just full color for me was getting it to the point where full color photography, full color birds, and being able to educate people on bird identification, since a lot of hunters are unfamiliar with what they're shooting at before they pull the trigger.
Black dot.
Yep. That black dot in the sky, first light bird,
Oh, yeah.
So let me ask you this, because it's not too often that we have a duck hunter and a photographer on here, but
that is true.
So, and we've had this conversation before, but it's interesting to see, how other people have done this. So, has being a waterfowl photographer made you a better duck hunter, or would you believe that being a duck hunter has made you a better waterfowl photographer?
I would believe that waterfowl photography has made me a better hunter, because
you have to get
when
closer.
When I'm out in the marsh taking pictures, I'm observing how they interact with other ducks, how they come in and decoy with other birds, how they interact with birds on the water without calling at them, simply just them being ducks. So that, on top of having a 200 to 600 lens in your hand and tracking flying subjects, correlates over to the clay pigeon range, and I believe correlates over to, if I'm doing more flying photography, it correlates for me shooting better too in the mark on flying shots too, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I've always said the same thing about turkeys too. Like if when you go out and photograph turkeys, you're not calling at them, or really, you really shouldn't, but you're not calling at them. You're just photographing them in their natural state, right? So you're
letting them do what they do.
Exactly. You're learning so much about the bird itself and their behavior by being a photographer that it does translate over to hunting. And I think that's for anything. I mean, deer, turkey, waterfowl, whatever it is. But it's just always interesting to hear, people's sides of things like of that.
It can help you become a better caller as well.
Yeah.
Knowing
for sure.
what sounds to make.
Oh, yeah.
And what sounds to make and when.
Yeah.
Because they'll do it right there in front of you if you let them. Like if you sit there long enough, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That you're part of a bush. You're just sitting there watching them, like letting them do what they do. Like they'll teach you a lot.
Yeah.
And they got I've kind of learned they've got a larger vocabulary than kind of what you realize. Like not every quack is a perfect quack, on a duck call. You know what I mean? Like just little things like that. You just don't even, you know what I mean? Like
you'll see. Yeah, you'll see a hen mallard sitting on the water, and everybody thinks like 4 or 5 quacks in a row is it. You'll have one that sits there like it's defective. It keeps quacking and quacking and quacking. It's like, are you going to stop?
Yeah. Same with turkeys, man. Like people will say, don't overcall turkeys. Turkeys don't yelp that much. They don't call that much. And I'm here to tell you, they do. Like I've literally watched a hen yelp for like 15, 20 seconds straight. Like she just did not stop to the point to where it's just like, okay, shut up. Like you're irritating me now because you're yelping so much. Yeah. Or they've made sounds that you wouldn't even think that a turkey would make. You know what I mean? And and then you don't realize maybe you've heard that sound before, but you never realized it was a turkey. Because normally when you're hunting the birds, you're yelping and you're hoping that they're screaming, gobbling, coming in, or they're yelping back at you, that you hear one of 2 calls, maybe 3. You might hear a kiki every once in a while, but you normally hear gobbling or you'll hear yelping, maybe a cluck and a purr.
Sure.
But sometimes they make these weird sounds.
These in-betweens.
That you don't, just why they're feeding around or whatever they're doing, that you wouldn't necessarily think is coming from a turkey. So to hear it in the wild, away from the bird, you're like, don't think of anything, but because you're getting so close and you're actually watching them just be turkeys while you're photographing them, then you can be like, okay, that I've heard that sound before photographing. I've heard turkeys make that sound before. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
So
Yeah, when I'm in the marsh doing the photography stuff, I ask myself a lot of why questions. It's like why are they flying to that corner point of the
right.
marsh versus the opposite one that I would think they should be there, but
Mm-hmm.
they're going into a totally different area. So then I go out and paddle out into different areas, and okay, well there's smartweed growing over here, or there's
Yeah.
food, there's cover, they have everything they want. Well,
Mm-hmm.
if this is going to be here in the fall and be thicker, they're I'm better off hunting in that location than I
Right.
am, hunting in different situations. So, I mean, it makes you an all-around better hunter,
Yeah.
in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do you during hunting season itself? Do you find yourself carrying a gun more or a camera?
Well, during hunting season, it kind of depends. I do a lot of stuff kind of after the hunt. I don't
Mm-hmm.
do a lot of
Mm-hmm.
filming the hunt and running and gunning and doing that thing. I solo hunt a lot.
Okay.
So I don't want to miss an opportunity that I don't get a lot of opportunities to
Right.
hunt ducks. I mean, I mainly hunt like 1 or 2 days if I'm lucky during the week, and
Mm-hmm.
every other weekend would work. So I want to be out there to hunt and harvest what I want to harvest and go home. So like I more focus on, because in my opinion, there's plenty of people out there in the outdoor space showing hunting videos.
Uh-huh.
I kind of give people a sneak peek of when I'm done hunting, if I've been successful, if I've not been successful. But yeah, the camera for the most part for me kind of stays home when I hunt.
Yeah.
I don't really do much of it just because I like watching nature wake up, listening to the sights and sounds instead of looking at the back of my camera and trying to
Mm-hmm.
figure out a bunch of settings and miss opportunities. So it's kind of where I'm at right now. That might change.
Right.
But yeah, I kind of just do after I'm done hunting photos.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool. So going back to full color waterfowl, I know like there's some companies they have like this idea starting, right, and then as the company grows, it transitions into a different set of goals. Has there been any change from the time that full color waterfowl started to where it is now? I mean, has there been different things that have come up that you're like, okay, I kind of want to transition from this to this, or has it been solid expectations are being met that you expected from the beginning?
Yeah, it's changed quite a bit. When we started off, it was just to kind of showcase my photography that I'm learning along the way, good, bad, or indifferent, so that people could give me pointers along the way, and I could, help other people that are a step below my journey, where they're just getting their first camera and wanting to go out in the marsh and get close to birds and helping them out in that respect.
Mm-hmm.
To selling the merchandise and creating blankets. Well, the main reason we created kids blankets wasn't just to have it be a money grab. It was to put ducks on those blankets that parents could have a very, very young conversation with kids about what each duck was.
Right.
In the bird identification realm of, I was at the expo and I had a person walk up to my table full of stickers and the guy goes, "Oh, little Johnny, do you know what this bird is?" And it was a hooded merganser, and the kid goes, "Oh, it's a buffle." And the dad goes, "That's right, little Johnny," and they walked away. And I'm like, "No, that's not what that is." So I'm like, we have grown people that don't know their ducks, which is an issue. So it's kind of evolving in that realm of, education. Is the education and advocacy for ducks is kind of something that I want to pursue more of as my brand being Full Color Waterfowl. And it kind of took a turn in the last year of, kind of calling out a little bit of internet clout that I see out there of people, playing with crippled birds. And I didn't know how that was going to go at first. I thought, maybe I'd get some backlash from the community and people want to just bash you on the internet and treat
Right.
you like crap and just kind of belittle you for pointing it out.
Mm-hmm.
But I had a lot of major people in the industry thanking me for bringing this stuff to other people's attention, that the stuff's not cool. It's not a way for your friends to want to act in the marsh, and it's just something that we're giving non-hunters fuel to hate us.
Right.
It's really all it boils down to. And just kind of go into that advocacy route for the animal because, well, all other than quack, they don't really have a voice. So having them be there for the next generation of hunters that's coming along that I want to be a part of, teaching them kind of how to do it the right way, and to be a sportsman along the way. And yes, we all fall into the rabbit hole of, whether it's online comments or whatever the case may be, but just trying to be different, I guess. Be myself and not hold myself back to being apologetic because a brand sponsors me, or having to do this because this paycheck comes into my bank, and this, so I have to conform to this little box of what I want to be as a business owner and as a person that's just wanting to be a hunter and teach people.
Right. One of the things that absolutely drives me nuts, and I'm probably going to get some messages on this because I see a lot of people do it, is the one pet peeve that I have with hero pictures, right, is when I see a person laying down next to a deer taking a selfie with it. I don't know why, but that drives me insane.
It's kind of weird.
Like they just lay down, and like this dead deer is looking at the camera, and they have like their arm around it or something, and they're taking a selfie with this deer. Like you see it all the time. I don't know if
I've seen that.
Oh my gosh, it drives me insane.
I'm not on the deer pages.
It drives me absolutely, and there's so many people that do it, and it's just I don't know. But that's it goes back to the the ethics and everything, and I think that's why when we do our pictures, when someone contacts us to do pictures of let's say they shot a big buck or their turkey or whatever, being able to show that bird in the most respectful way that we can, right? Because it's especially when it's more so when it's deer or turkeys than waterfowl, just because you really can't tell a you may not be able to tell this mallard from this mallard, right? So it's like you're not hunting one you're not hunting one throughout the course of 4 years, But when you do harvest that buck that you've chased for 3 or 4 years, or you harvest that turkey that has whooped your butt the last 2 years, like it becomes more personal than anything, because at that moment you're never going to hunt that animal again. Yeah. And so being able to take that experience and the memories on that and be able to put those in an image while respecting the animal that you've spent so much time, going after, to lay down and take a selfie with this thing, with its tongue hanging out, blood coming out of its nose, eyes are god awful. It's just like, why?
It's just, to me, it's kind of creepy. It's kind of weird.
Why? I don't get it.
This is weird.
But I mean, there's plenty of people that do it, and I don't know why, but it's just, That's my rant.
Or
rant
the
for
shirtless,
the
guy shirtless with the goose in his mouth, got the bill, the goose bill in his mouth. Yep. He's just like this, shirtless. Yeah. It's just what is that?
Man, come on. But so, I don't know. So yes, I am very on board with you on the whole, trying to eliminate that or put it into, or at least say something. And I maybe I need to say more, when that happens, and do my part in doing what you're doing. It just drives me up a wall. So we have talked about a lot, but I want to talk about your podcast too, because when we do this, it's not necessarily to, our podcast is not necessarily just to promote us, right? We bring guests on not only to have content, but to also promote other people and things that are doing kind of what we're doing, and so you have a podcast, Justin, and for those of you that are watching this, you can see that Matt and I are looking at this computer because Justin is right here on our computer, and we haven't quite figured out a way that we can record him without the coming back. So that is coming. So in the future, you'll be able to see the guest that's on here, as well as us. But that being said, kind of go over your podcast a little bit. I know we talked about it a little bit before we started the podcast, but just kind of go over it and let people know how to listen to it and stuff like that.
Yeah. So for right now, I have it on Spotify. It's Full Color Waterfowl on Spotify, and a lot of it is geared toward not necessarily the new hunter, but I have podcasts that I do by myself that are roughly 20 to 30 minutes. And then if I have a guest on, I do 45 minutes to an hour.
Yep.
And with the guests that I have on there, we are very close to UW Stevens Point. And UW Stevens Point is one of the bigger natural resource schools in the country as far as, pumping out students that are going to be working in the natural resource field. So I have a lot of them on the podcast to just kind of give me their take of the hunting culture around here versus other areas, because we have very limited areas that we can go that are big water duck hunting areas, and they're very overhunted.
Mm-hmm.
So we get into a little bit of that. We get into hunting ethics. I get into why hunting shouldn't change because you get married.
Oh,
That
yeah.
obviously marriage and kids and all the other stuff and life gets in the way of a lot of things, but different things that a couple should talk about when they get married, or they're just becoming boyfriend and girlfriend, and they get into you're a hunter, I'm not, and what that can all pertain to,
Right.
and not changing who you are because of that.
Mm-hmm.
It's evolved a little bit in the ones that I've done. Some of them are geared toward a lot of ethics and a lot of helping kids understand, bird identification on the wing, how to identify a bluebill versus a redhead when they're flying right in front of you, and just kind of giving people more tools that will allow them to be better in the marsh, not from the pile pick perspective, but not to put themselves in a situation where accidentally shoot a friend.
Right. Yeah.
Accidentally shoot your dad. I had a buddy that had that happen to his little nephew last year. He ended up killing his father.
That's insane.
So different things that, knowing where your gun barrel is. Very simple things for the average hunter that's been doing it a long time, but there are parts of it that even us from time to time forget.
Mm-hmm.
And when you get into the heat of the moment and you're swinging at a duck, you just got to have.
Right.
And happened to me last year. Got my ears wrung pretty good because a buddy decided that he wanted that duck more than I did, and he was going to shoot above me. But have those conversations and basically talk about how to have those conversations in marshes when you've been there for 2 hours and somebody rolls up on you, and instead of it turning into a fist fight over a stinking duck, how to de-escalate the situation and maybe make friends out of it. You don't know. Mm-hmm. But a lot of that kind of aspect of it, just to give people a little bit more knowledge before they're walking into the dark with a headlamp.
Yeah, very cool. All right. Well, I think that is going to pretty much wrap this episode up. Justin, we're going to put your socials on the end of this video here, so people know how to check your stuff out, and then also your podcast. Matt, did you have anything that you wanted to add before we end?
No.
It's about time for lunch.
Yeah.
Chipotle's almost there.
Oh,
it is actually en route.
Did you order it?
Yeah. It's
yes. All right, Justin, you have anything before we jump off here, buddy?
The only thing I just wanted to touch on was with my stuff with Delta is with the university hunt program that we do. We partner with UWSP at Stevens Point, like I had mentioned. The students there, what most people don't understand is like a lot of the students that are going to UWSP are fairly on the liberal side without getting political.
Yeah. And
they're going into natural resource fields that they might be able to make decisions that go for or against hunters. So the big thing with what we're doing with the university hunt program is we actually target kids that have never hunted before. A lot of them have never touched a gun, never killed anything in their life, never harvested a duck. So we limit it to about 10 to 15 students, and we go over everything from how to take apart a shotgun, how to put it back together, safety aspects of shotgun. They have to take hunter safety before they even start the program, before they show up for the first day.
Okay.
And then we go into bird identification. We take them out clay pigeon shooting so they understand how to fly a moving object.
Right.
And then we take them out on a goose hunt. Last year we shot a couple geese, got permission behind a weird field behind Walmart. It was kind of awkward. You could see people parking their cars, but we were out there trying to blast geese. So we're successful a little bit, and then we bring them back to the Bill Cook Center, which is in Stevens Point, and we make a bunch of different meals for them out of the wild geese and ducks that we shoot. So they understand full circle and see the benefits of it. Our DNR warden comes down and he gives it from his perspective of what he sees out in the marsh, and kind of helps them understand what you do in the case of shooting the wrong bird.
Yeah.
And how you approach him and have a conversation with him to kind of have a mutual understanding and go from there. So not to scare them about getting in trouble, but if it's a whoopsie once, shame on you. Whoopsie twice, well, you might want to figure out some things before we go a different route. So we are the only chapter in the state of Wisconsin that's doing it through Delta right now, and currently growing it to where this year we're not going to take them goose hunting. We're actually taking them duck hunting on a private property that we got access to.
Okay.
And guy was gracious enough to open up a duck water wetland sanctuary for us to use for a day. So it should be a very good hunt by ducks that aren't being shot at much.
Right. Yeah.
And then after that, Feather Dusters and C&H are two layout boat hunters, guides that are out on Green Bay. They actually opened up a day for us, and we're going to take those same students out layout boat hunting on Green Bay.
Very cool.
So they'll get to see both aspects of big water hunting and hunting in the marsh and stuff like that. So big things to come with that too. So it's pretty sweet to be a part of that.
Yeah, that's cool. I got to be a part of the Ohio State University one they put on. So I was actually hired to photograph it. So I showed up Friday, did the clay bird shooting, the gun stuff, putting the gear on, and then, Saturday morning, then we hunted and kind of went through all that, then brought them back, cleaned them. Everybody had to learn how to clean them, and we ate them. And one kid shot a coot, and guess what? He had to eat it. So there you go. So yeah, that was kind of it is cool to see. Like you said, they have not even touched a shotgun, held a shotgun.
Yeah.
So think about that.
Right.
And they're getting them out hunting.
Yeah.
And everybody, all the students at the end of the experience, after the end of the few days there, they were like, like I never thought I would enjoy hunting or thought I would be something I would ever do. You're killing things.
Yeah.
Like, I don't like that. But then they saw the full circle, the conservation side and why you do it and the whole big picture. And every single one of them was like, I want to be a part of this more.
Yeah.
So that was really cool.
And it's just like every year I photograph a youth hunt for Pheasants Forever. And one of the coolest things that I experience, and it happens every year, like there's these kids, their parents have hunted, and they do pheasant hunt, right? But the kids have never shown interest in it because in their mind, it's just going out and shooting a bird. But when they get out there for this youth hunt and they get to experience, other hunters, or they get to watch the dogs work, or the bird goes down and the dog's bringing it back, and then when you ask a kid what their favorite part about the hunt was, it's 95% of the time the dog. That's just what. But it opens up so much in their little minds to what it actually is and the enjoyment, and it's not necessarily about going out and killing the bird or killing what it is, whatever you're hunting.
And that's what we need to do on social media, show the whole thing, not just people hate it because all they see is you holding a dead bird.
Yeah.
That's all it is. I got a dead bird. You know what I
Right.
mean? That's all it is. But when you sit there and look at the full picture, the whole thing, that's the only thing people's posting about.
Yeah.
Like, let's post the rest of it. Let's post you eating it.
Yeah.
I only know like one person doing that. You know what I mean? Though,
Yeah.
like nobody does that. They don't show the whole thing,
Yeah.
and that kind of puts a bad spin on it in a
Yeah.
way. So.
My favorite part of last year waterfowl season for me was my phone dinging in the marsh at say 8 o'clock in the morning, and 4 of the different students that were part of that university learn to hunt program were sending me pictures of their first goose, their first teal.
That's very cool. Very cool.
And then it went into I shot my first deer. One of the girls shot a bear. Like it just evolved into. The girl, she took it full on and went into, it started with, once she got her first teal, then it went to bigger ducks and geese, and then all of a sudden deer and turkey and bear, and then she's just a full blown she skins her own beavers and raccoons and stuff now. So because she understands every aspect of it now, which was really cool to see. It made me smile anyway.
I love when people do things that revolves around the kids, right? So like you have like your programs and things that are targeted toward, you know, adults and things. I mean, but the ones that target kids I absolutely love them because their minds are still so moldable. They're still
very
learning,
impressionable.
very, and just to see how much impact you've made on a kid, that they are sending you messages, you know, text messages of pictures of things that they've killed because you took that time to inform them and teach them about, you know, the world of hunting. Yeah. It's so much cooler than when it is adults. Like I don't know. It's cool.
Definitely.
But all right, Justin, we are going to jump off here, buddy. I am going to leave all your information at the end of this video, all your socials, things like that. And then your podcast name and all that good stuff. So that way people can go check you out and kind of see what we're talking about here on the podcast. You know, it's a whole different, you know, ball game when you hear about it and you think, wow, that's really cool. But then you go to your Instagram and you see some of these images and some of these designs and you're like, that is really cool.
Real deal.
Yeah,
it is a real deal.
Did you have anything that you wanted to add before we jump off here, buddy?
No, I'm good, guys. I just appreciate you guys having me on and. Yeah,
absolutely.
Making duck calls, so I call in more ducks, man.
Show them. You got them?
Not right here. I go grab them.
I thought you were grabbing your lanyard or something.
Oh, man. All right, buddy. We're going to jump off here. We appreciate you jumping on, buddy.
All right. Take care, guys.
All right. See you, man. All right, so before we end this, I want to do something. I
was ready to go pee.
Well, just hold on a second. Before we do this, we talk about the verse of the week at the beginning of the podcast, you know, but I want to start circling back.
Here we go.
You know, and I want to take a portion of what you talked about, and I want to put it into perspective and give people something to think about until next week. Okay. So the one that I wanted to talk about today, and it's real quick, real simple, is in this world you will have trouble, and I think that is huge, you know, to talk about, because no matter what you do, who you are, what you're involved in, you will face trouble.
Oh, it's coming for you,
like for sure. And so the best thing for you to do is just hand it to God. That's it. And trust that He is going to take care of that trouble for you. We talked about on a previous episode to where that, or maybe it was the men's group, but regardless, like just keep a clear eye, right? Like just like you can't go through life with just troubles dragging you down, right? So and that's, God did not sacrifice for us to live miserably.
Yeah.
Right? So in this world, you will have trouble. Give it to Him. Let Him take care of it, and He will take care of it for you, as long as you are doing your job and your duties for Him, right? So that means...
That's the key.
That is the key. That is the key. Continue to chase. Continue to show your loyalty to Him and your faith, and He will take care of your troubles for you. With that being said, did you have anything to add before we close this thing out?
Amen.
All right. Thank you guys for checking out this episode. It will be posted, like always, on Monday mornings. Matt will have the verse of the week out, and then we will see you on the next one.